Hey, what's happening everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today we're reviewing the Likebook areas. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So yeah, this is a long-awaited video. It has been a while since I have last reviewed the Mars version, also known as the T80D. It was a fantastic tablet, it was great, but it died. What we have here on the front is a 7.8-inch display. It's got a dual-tone LED backlight, which is really nice. You can choose between cold, warm, or turn on both of them. And a resolution of whatever that is. It's 1400 roughly by 1800. We are getting a whopping 300 pixels per inch, which is pretty fantastic for an e-ink display. And this time, unlike before, we have a full matte display, so the actual display is not recessed. We have a full flat flush front face, which does look pretty nice, but again, personally, I do miss the nice edges. To be honest, it's still plenty comfortable to hold in the hand, and it's pretty lightweight for an Android tablet, which has Wi-Fi and storage and all that good stuff, weighing at around 270 grams, which compared to the Mars model, we are getting roughly about 250 grams. Now take a look at the back here. This time we have a rubberized back. Nice and flat on the top of the logo, ridged on the left, as well as the right. Take a look at the bottom, we have a Type-C port, which is a big upgrade over the micro USB that we had on the Mars. Other than the card reader, which the Aries also does have on the side with a nice cover, the Aries this time includes a pair of speakers on the bottom, which is really nice, but it omits the built-in headphone jack, which although the Aries does not have, it's not that big of a deal breaker, as they both have Bluetooth capabilities, and nowadays truly wireless earbuds are very cheap, and almost everyone has one nowadays. Now taking a look at the top, we have the power button, nice and tactile. We've got nothing on the left side, and finally on the right side we got the micro SD card slot, which this time is nicely hidden on the side with an actual door, which is going to keep things nice and safe. Now speaking of safe, we do have the included cover, which you'll notice also has an actual pen. And if you're wondering, yes, this pen is pressure sensitive, and it's pretty awesome. The built-in drawing or note application is really good, and we'll be taking a look at it in just a bit. So the case itself here is very functional. It keeps your tablet safe, it keeps it nice and covered. It does have a magnetic cover, which actually activates and turns off the tablet when you open it and close it. And overall, it's not bad at all. It doesn't add a whole lot of weight. But most importantly, it has a place to keep the pen safe. It's a nice place to have the pen, and so far I haven't had an issue with it kind of getting in the way at all, because it's kind of flexible, and you just don't feel it most of the time. And yeah, did I mention it's got a button on the front? That being said, here's what it looks like when you insert the tablet. It's got a nice silicone cover, which I prefer for these type of things, and I like silicone covers for two main reasons. One, of course, is to protect your device from drops, and the second reason is to protect the device from the cover itself. If you have a hard cover like this one, it's not going to hold with a hard impact, and most of the time it's going to damage the outer shell and basically just leave some marks. As you can see here, there's a nice air bubble. It's a nice bumpy area, so when this thing is impacted, it's not going to go directly into the tablet. It's going to have plenty of rubberized cushioning on the corners. As for the feel here, the front has kind of it's more like if velvet was rubber. This is what it would feel like. It's pretty interesting, and I really do like it. Here's what it sounds like. As for the back, it's more of a matte finish instead of the shiny silicone, so it doesn't leave a whole lot of fingerprints. You could say it's a bit more grippy. So the case on the Aries is pretty great. It's fantastic. It has lots of features, except for one big one, which I really miss. The fact that the ADD case has a magnetic front cover. We can see that it automatically likes to snap, and it actually takes some force to open it up. That is something that we are missing on the Aries case, and although it doesn't have the magnetic hold, it does actually turn on and off the screen when you open it up. And with that being said, let's go ahead and finally take a look at the software. Alright, so here's what the tablet looks like when it's in the off state. You'll have this cool splash screen, which is in fact customizable, and we'll test that out in just a bit. I've already loaded some stuff on the SD card. That being said, let's go ahead and turn it on and see what it looks like when it's booting up. And two things I forgot to mention. One of them is actually the power indicator, and the other one, which is kind of a big one, is actually a home button right over here. Or should I say a capacitive touch sensitive button. And this is what it'll look like when you first boot it up. You'll be brought to the custom home screen launcher. And out of the box you'll actually get 9 books that are preloaded. The 10th one here is actually something I have loaded myself, which is Migraines by Oliver Sacks. The built-in reader here is pretty nice. We have already taken a look at it in the last revision. It did have some spelling mistakes and whatnot, but overall it was a pretty decent reader. And yes, you can use Amazon Kindle, Moonlight, and Tachiyomi, and yes, we'll get to running them in just a bit. Now what you saw here was actually the lock screen, and that is also something you can actually change. which is pretty awesome. So starting at the top, we have the home button, the back button, the full refresh button, as well as the dual tone backlight. Now the first two are pretty self-explanatory, they're just standard Android navigation buttons, but the screen refresh button here, if you have never owned an e-reader before, then you might not understand what it does. Basically, the long explanation is that e-readers don't have a fast refresh rate, and if you ever used a cheaper tablet before, then you'll notice that the screen is usually very slow. You press on something and it takes like a full second for the screen to fully refresh. And those tablets do that in order to give you a clean image. And you're probably asking, what does that look like? Well, I can go ahead and enable it through the A2 mode, which will turn this tablet to actually refresh much faster than it usually does. But as a side effect, it will actually leave some ghosting and remains from the previous display. It's very handy when you're actually navigating, trying to set some settings, download some stuff. You can actually enable that option. It'll make this tablet feel much snappier. So I'm going to go ahead and just go into the app section and then back to the notepad. And right here, you can see that there's some ghostings and remains of the previous displays. We have one from the app section and one from the reading section. And in order to get rid of that, we can go ahead and press that. And just like that, the screen is perfectly clean. And the way it does it is it actually goes ahead and fully blacks out, then fully whites out, then displays whatever is currently on the screen for the latest picture. So anyways, next up we have the dual tone backlight. And this feature is definitely one of my favorite features of this tablet. Not only it's very nicely implemented, but it also has really nice even lighting for both warm and cool lighting. So when you open up the backlight menu, we have a couple options. We have off, some presets, then we have the customize tab. And this is where you can go ahead and really dial in what you want. So basically, we can either have warm, we can have cool, or we can actually have both of them at the same time and a different mixture at different volumes. And the cool thing about it is if you have both of them, you'll get an even brighter display. Or you can actually trigger this option right here and it will lock both of them at the same levels that you had them, and it will allow you to change both of them at the same time. For example, I can have the warm halfway and toggle that on, then I'll be able to get a consistent result, which is pretty cool. And here's what the tablet looks like currently in the darkness. Then we have day mode, night mode, bed, which is actually ultra dim, but you can actually still see it. And this is what it kind of looks like in real life. It's very, very dim, so it's really good for bed mode. But of course, we have the customize. We can go ahead and just put it on full blast. And yeah, this is how bright this tablet can get. If I turn that off, this should give you a pretty good idea. It's quite beautiful if you ask me. You're just getting some very nice even lighting throughout the entire screen of this tablet, and it's quite beautiful. There's no light bleeding, there's no harsh spots, everything is absolutely perfect. So anyways, back to the status bar. On the top here, we have a couple things. We have the notifications, we have the A2 mode indicator, we have the battery life in percentage, time, and at the top right corner, we actually have the task manager, which if you go ahead and press, it will tell you what apps are open. You can turn them off individually or completely turn them all off. And of course, right over here, it tells you how much RAM you have left. If we go ahead and actually press onto the status bar itself, we'll be able to bring up the quick menu. We have the A2 mode, so let's go ahead and turn that off. Again, it makes your screen refresh faster, making it feel snappier, but it results with more ghosting. Then we have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, battery saver, battery percentage, screenshot, airplane mode, settings, volume, and contrast. And with contrast, you can actually play around with it depending on what app you're in, and it will greatly help actually make things more readable. Basically, you'll use this when you have an app that is mostly gray, and the text is kind of gray too, so in order to actually get more contrast and basically make things more readable, you can play around with that slider. And yes, you can actually have custom contrast and brightness levels per app inside the tablet itself. And finally on the bottom here, we have a toggle between the notifications and the switch. So yeah, so far we've only covered the tip of the iceberg. This thing is packed with thoughtful features ever since the T80D. During my time with this tablet, I got about 3 to 4 different updates before this thing died on me, and that was within a couple of weeks. I was constantly seeing new features and updates, and it was pretty amazing. But with this model, whatever they learned on the old one, it is now implemented into this tablet. Alright, so here we are about 2 weeks later, and yeah, something interesting happened with this tablet. You're probably noticing that everything here is in Chinese. That actually happened about 10 minutes ago when I was rebooting and doing some stuff and playing around with the settings. But what is even more interesting is the fact that we have books that were not available when we first started. And if you happen to be someone who speaks this language, you can see that everything looks pretty sharp, pretty clean, and yeah, not a whole lot to complain about, I would say. So, select English, and now everything is in English. So if you go back home, we should have our old preloaded English books. Now, that makes me curious. Does it have other preloaded books for other languages? So let's go ahead and finally open up a book and see what it's all about. You'll get your time, battery life, as well as the percentage read of whatever book you're reading. Out of the box, the default settings are right for right, left for left, and you can also drag back and forth. You also have the middle click, which will open up the entire menu. But before that, yes, we do have zooming in and out action. So when zooming in, it will increase the text size, but keep whatever artwork you have on the page the exact same size. So anyways, back to the menu, we have a couple things. So on the top here, we'll actually have the recently opened books, and you can easily close them if you're pretty much done with them. Next, we have the title book. We have the back button to go back to the actual library page. We have the brightness controls once again. Then we have the notes toggle button, and basically when you first initially turn this on, it will actually have a pop-up telling you that you can apparently have this tablet in split screen mode, where you can have the book on one side and the notes on the other in the horizontal state. Now, I wasn't able to do that, and I don't know how to do it. Hey, it's me from the future, figured out how to do it, but I'll show you later. Out of the box, it will bring you to a blank page. You'll have your save button, title book, undo, redo. I don't know what that is. Hey, it's me again from the future. Here's what cursor mode does. Very nice. Add extra page, switch between the pages, disable finger touch controls, and of course the menu for sharing, copying, and all that good stuff. Now on the bottom here, we'll also have the pen, as well as the eraser. So yeah, the pen. What do we have here? Well, this magnificent tool that we have here has a couple functions. Of course, we have the clip, we have a built-in tactile button, of course the pressure-sensitive tip, as well as an eraser tip, which I believe also happens to be pressure-sensitive. And here's how responsive it is. Take a look. As you can see, this pen is really responsive, at least with the built-in note-taking app. With other apps I've tried, some of them of course just don't run, while others do run, but it's more of a laggy experience. Just take a look at how this tablet performs. Switching back and forth between pages, it's pretty quick, and honestly, it's a really nice experience, especially for taking notes. It doesn't feel like you're crippled too much. And here's what it looks like with straight lines. And as you can see, it's a straight line. You could say it's kind of dotty or jittery, but if you're just doodling around, writing some notes, you're going to be perfectly fine. Everything is going to look nice and clean. And honestly, it's a joy to just doodle around with this tablet with a pen like this. Now, as for the erasing function, as you can see, it does work, but you also have another way to do it if you want a bit more precision. We can go ahead and select the dedicated eraser mode, which will allow us to erase with the fine tip on the front. And honestly, this is kind of therapeutic. It's very calming. It's pretty nice. That said, we're not done yet here. If we go ahead and click it one more time, it will bring up a menu where you can go ahead and select the size, thickness, type of erasing mode, and all that good stuff. I believe this allows you to erase whatever sections you have. Now, as for the actual pen section, we have a fountain pen as well as a marker, and the marker is basically just a thicker line. It doesn't have any touch sensitivity, but this is like an Etch-a-Sketch on a whole new level. And of course we got black, red, and blue. So you can choose your color between gray, and gray. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to choose gray. And really, you just cannot get enough of this. The last thing I want to show you here with the note-taking app is that we actually have a different background we can choose from. We have a couple, but basically it'll give you a little something like this. And really, it's just a background. It's not going to affect your drawings or whatever notes you're taking. While my past self takes a break, here's one more thing inside the actual readers. This is something that you can only do in PDF books, which is draw directly onto the book itself. And yes, it does say per page, and that is pretty damn awesome. So anyways, exiting out of that, we'll be brought to the book where we can go in and finally take a look at the bottom part. That's filled with a whole lot of features and functions. First of all, we have the chapter title. We have the slider for the book, which do change when you increase and decrease the font size. And this whole entire box right here is actually part of a tab system of 1 and 2. These little two things are 2 tabs, and then you got functions within them. Over here we have the catalog, which you can go ahead and take a look at the contents of the book, see what kind of chapter you're in, what's the next chapter. And next to that we have the bookmarks, which I currently do not have any, and in order to add one you can go ahead here and add that, and it should come up right over here. Next up, we have the notes section, and this is where you can go ahead and take a look at the notes that you added, your underline notes, as well as the marginal notes, which are basically whatever we drew in the note section. Now you're probably asking, how do you add an underline note? Well, we'll take a look at that after we finish this bottom part. Next up, we have this tab, and this tab gives you a couple things. It gives you text-to-speech, which uses the built-in Google engine. And here you can change your timing, volume, speed, as well as which text-to-speech engine you would like to use, which Google has a couple different voices and different accents. We can start here,
This announcement of Tristanton's
And as you can see, it's really slow. So personally, I like to increase it just about here.
Caused by the appearance of comets would not have been a parody 4 or 5 centuries.
Next to that, we have the automatic page turning, so you can have the book just set up somewhere and you can just have it automatically switch pages. And right next to that, we have the book preview section, which will actually zoom out and give you an overview of what the next pages look like. And you can increase and decrease the preview size to get more previews in the window. The best use case for this feature is for comic books or manga. You can easily get a nice preview of what things look like and easily navigate through it. And next to that, we have the font section, which is just feature packed. So here you can choose a font and you can add your own, of course, inside the system itself. We've got 5 preset font sizes, and we can also customize that, add italics, add some boldness, and just make things a whole lot easier to read. After that, we got 5 different type settings, which yes, you can also choose and customize it to your liking using these sliders. Next up, we have the contrast slider, and this we can go ahead and tweak what pictures and text look like on your e-reader display. And yes, this is the exact same feature that you would see on black and white TVs back in the day. Especially the mini ones, you'd have a couple dials on the back of the TV, and one of them would of course be contrast and brightness. And this is exactly what it is. And again, it's a very important feature, especially for a black and white e-reader. So for now, here's what the slider would do. So you get the idea. That's what it kind of looks like when you're playing around with the contrast slider. Next up, we have the double page option, and you guessed it, we can now read in double page mode, which is really, really nice, especially for the fact that we now have a place to place our thumbs without getting in the way of the screen. And this is very nice, and it's pretty comfortable, and I would definitely see myself reading some manga in this mode, because now I would get the entire page layout showing up. Yes, it might be small, but at least have 2 pages. Next up, we have the rotation option, which of course flips the book all the way around your tablet. You can have it upside down, left to right, and basically just allow you to read your book however you want. Now this feature only works on the actual reader, but once you go back to the home screen, everything is back to normal. And speaking of rotation, here's how you enable the split screen mode. Set up your tablet in horizontal mode, toggle on the note taker, and just like that, you'll have your note-taking app. And lastly, for the bottom section, we have the settings, where you can go ahead and map your screen on how you want to navigate your book. Next up, we have the page refreshing mode, and this is where you can go ahead and customize how your page refreshes. Now by default, it is set to normal, which is between top speed and regal mode. One prioritizes the responsiveness, while the other image quality. And normal mode is somewhere in the middle. And by default, it is set to fully refresh the display every 20 pages. Now this feature right here actually has a couple things going for it. First of all, it saves battery life. Second of all, it gives you that real paper aesthetic. In our case, it's called ghosting. But in the case of real books, it's what you see on the other side of the page. So leaving these settings on default, it will give you that realistic page aesthetic. For the ghosting, will kind of turn into what I just showed you on a real book. And lastly, we have these 2 options, as well as the health reminder. That tells you to take a break after how many hours you've been reading. We're still inside the app, and there's one last thing I want to show you guys, and that is when you go ahead and select a word. When you do so, it will pop up a little window. It will give you a system dictionary, which as you can see, it's not great. But all I see here is some English gibberish and some actual translation in Chinese. I looked around, tried to tweak it, tried to fix it, didn't exactly know how to. The first option here is to copy that word. The next one is to highlight that word, and once you click on it, it will give you a couple more options. You can underline it, dot it, squiggly, or delete it, and then again, the same options that we had before. Next to that, we can add it to a memo or a note. So here we have the word greeted, and let's say we want to say that it means good. And if we want, we can also go ahead and actually write it down. So we can say stuff. And just like that, we wrote stuff using the pen, which is really cool. Go ahead and save that, and once you're back in the book, and you'll see that that word not only is underlined, but it'll also have this little icon, which we can go ahead and click. It will tell us that that word means good stuff. Yes. Right next to that, we'll need Wi-Fi for it. And basically, if we go ahead and click that, it will look it up under Wikipedia, which is very handy. And right next to that, we actually have the translation app, which does in fact work. Currently have it set to Russian, very handy. And lastly, we can look up that word inside the same book and see how many times it's repeated under what pages. And yes, you can go ahead and select multiple words across the page. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the built-in reader. It's feature-packed, it's a whole lot to go through. We are finally here with a fully fledged tablet running Android 6.0, and it's pretty damn awesome. So I can finally exit out of the app, and I'll be back in just a bit. And we are back, so let's go ahead and move on to the notepad before we go ahead and take a look at the built-in system settings as well as the custom Android apps that everyone is used to. And inside the notepad is where you can go ahead and really enjoy your pen. You can draw, you can take notes, and it doesn't have to be book related. And as you can see here, we do have a couple templates, and if we go ahead and press on that, we can actually get a new notepad. And inside each notepad, of course, we can have groups and papers inside of them. And if we drop the keyboard here, we can see that there are some presets and templates that we can choose from. We got line paper, checklist, squares. You know, you're making a team, you're trying to coordinate, get a strat going, and basically the subject is Rush B. So, there you go. The upper is here, the grenade, the flash, and boom, just like that, you got a plan, and you can go ahead and share that and be good to go. So we got a bunch here for the stickers, and I don't know what the point is, but this is a dog. 1, 2, at, question mark, swag. So we can write that and then go to AI convert to text, and we can see what the tablet is going to convert this to. So yeah, that worked out. It was a 1, 2, it converted to a T. I mean, that's clear. If we do something like this, if we go ahead and do that, that should work much better. Yeah, there we go. That is all for the built-in e-reader and note-taking apps. Let's go ahead and move over to the app section. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice some things like Chrome, Discord, Reddit, Doodle Jump, and yes, most of them do run, and surprisingly pretty okay. That being said, I don't recommend using any of these apps on this tablet. If anything, you'd probably do it just for the memes. Now, of course, out of the box, none of these are installed, and neither is the Google Play Store. It does, however, come with its own app store, but they have made life much easier compared to a Xiaomi tablet. Typically, with a Xiaomi tablet, you have to download an APK, run it, have it run, give it permissions, and do all those loopholes just to get the Google Play Store working. Here, Likebook has done a fantastic job, just like they did with the last tablet, of being able to actually enable it within the tablet itself without having to download any extra software. And in order to do that, you want to go ahead and click on this one right here, then the gears icon, then right down here, you'll see that it says Enable Google Framework. You click that on, it does some processing, it restarts the tablet, and just like that, you get yourself an actual Android tablet, with almost all the bells and whistles of a typical Android device, except with an e-ink display. Now everything else here is pretty much shortcuts to the original Android settings menu, and you can in fact get to it within this tablet without installing any additional software. So everything here is the typical stuff that you'd see on Android, so I'm not going to go into it. You can do your permissions, block an app and do all that stuff, whatever you can do on Android 6.0. That being said, before we go ahead and jump to the settings, there's one more thing to take note of, and that would be this little snowflake icon, which will give you this menu. We can go ahead and scroll through every app that is installed on this tablet. And basically what you can do here is you can have individual apps be ready to turn on as soon as the tablet has finished booting. You can also have the apps running in the background, or you can completely hide them from the app drawer. And typically you'd probably do this on one of your apps, maybe your primary e-reader. In your case, if you don't like the built-in e-reader system, you're going to have Moonlight as well as Tachiyomi running in the background. And it should make things a whole lot smoother. So inside the user settings menu, it will give you something very similar to other e-reader tablets. It'll tell you your specs, it'll tell you your Wi-Fi and user settings, but there's in fact a whole lot going on here. Of course, we have our wireless settings, we have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and VPN. We got account management, and that's basically a shortcut to see what kind of apps you have actually linked. And inside the user settings is where we can go ahead and customize this tablet. If you guys remember earlier in this video, I mentioned that you can change the lock screen as well as the powered off wallpaper. So now that we're here, let's go ahead and choose some stuff from the SD card. The 128GB SD card, which is totally overkill, but if you're loading up Mega on it, then it totally makes sense. And it seems like I put it in the wrong folder. But that's no problem because this is a perfect opportunity to check out the file manager. So we got the typical category stuff. We have NetDisk, that's pretty cool, so we can pull some stuff over the network, as well as the internal and external devices. So let's go ahead and select picture, and we have a couple stuff here, and I should be able to go ahead and select everything here. File management, yep, select all, cut, and then we can go ahead and drop that into the wallpaper folder. Let's jump back to the user settings and try again. All right, here we are. Which one do I choose? Well, let's go ahead and try this one out here. All right, so if I go ahead and lock the screen, we got some pretty badass wallpaper. Check that out. You're probably wondering how the actual contrast levels are. Well, in this room, I've got bright lights, and my roof is reflecting some white light onto the tablet, so the contrast levels are not great. In order to fix that, I got a big piece of cardboard, put on top, and you can see how it looks like in real life. It's pretty damn sweet. I'm gonna set that for the lock screen, and I think that looks much better. It looks pretty damn sweet if you ask me. Moving on, we got the power management, and what do we have here? Well, we have all the timers and sleep options and power savers that you'd probably be accustomed to. The most important one here would actually have to be the Wi-Fi option. The Wi-Fi here, of course, drains battery life, but it actually drains battery life much slower than this tablet right here. I don't know if it's optimization, different chip, bigger overall battery. For charging time, it's going to take you about 2 to 3 hours, but that's very typical. So of course, your mileage will vary, but you can be assured that it's going to give you enough battery life for you to fully enjoy this tablet before you have to charge it again, which isn't going to take a whole lot compared to how long you'll be using it. By default, the battery percentage won't be turned on, so turn that on. Inside the apps is basically just a shortcut to the Android settings menu, which any advanced Android user would know about. You can set your permissions and delete cache and all that good stuff. Then we have the device settings. We can have a lock screen with a password. We can change your date, your language, your keyboard, and tweak your AI handwriting stuff. So we have all these options, and we can go ahead and download them. Next up, we have the system updates, and so far I've only got 1 update since turning this thing on, compared to the 6 updates that I got with this tablet within the first month. Next up, we have an important one, which I don't know if you can actually use it. Maybe this is why this tablet is fully fleshed out, is because people were giving them feedback, but you can go ahead and click that, give them some feedback, contact them, let them know what you want to see, or what you want to see fixed. And finally, we have the manual built into a dedicated shortcut inside the settings menu. And you guessed it, it's just a PDF that is opened up. And of course, we can go ahead and check out the catalog. And you can see that there's a whole lot going on here. We got a big list of common problems you can go ahead and check out. And finally, we can go ahead and click on this little arrow, which will give us the Android About section. We got the device name, kernel, Android version. We got the build number, status, and network information, certificate mark, so pretty cool. We got factory reset, developer mode, and inside of here we have full ability to do all the developer stuff, fully enabled by default, which is pretty nice, as well as the Android settings for the actual Android system. And this is what you'd probably want to see when you have an Android device. You don't want to see some kind of overlay theme, which this tablet does have, but by default it does allow you to fully view what the Android system looks like under the hood. And with that, we can go ahead and finally take a look at the apps that I've installed. And for this portion of the video, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the lights and give you guys a good feel of what the backlight feels like. So here we go. Boop. Something is missing. Hold on. Get some of this and a bit of this. And let's go ahead and customize. That's what the cool backlight looks like. And that's what the warm light looks like. And we're going to go for something that's in between. There we go. Real nice and crisp. So what do I launch first? Well, the first 8 apps are basically built in, and the rest here are pretty much what I installed for testing purposes. Since we're here, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the built-in browser. It's not great, but it works. Gallery app, basically your typical stuff. Music, and do we have any pre-installed ones? It doesn't seem like it. We got the built-in app store, and inside of here you got your typical stuff that you'd probably want. Then we have the dictionary, and this is basically you can go ahead and do the dictionary stuff that doesn't work very well. The translation app does work, so we can go ahead and write something like, Rush B, and it basically should translate it right down here. Very nice. We also have the glossary, and this is basically just words that you have selected and you have used when you were reading a book. And finally, for the built-in apps, we have the typical Android App Store. You can go ahead and download Arknights if you want and play it. And so yeah, YouTube app. What do we have here? Well, we have YouTube. And what can we do here? Well, we can go ahead and scroll. In fact, let's go ahead and enable A2 mode for that extra responsiveness. So that's what that looks like. So here we got a video playing in A2 mode, and as you can see, we got a whole lot of ghosting. You can go ahead and turn that off, and instead we'll get a little something like this. So let's go back to A2, and now we're getting a more enjoyable video. It's not terrible, honestly. It might be just good enough to play COD or PUBG. Next up, we got the speed test, and let's go ahead and give that a quick try. And if you are wondering, yes, it does have 5G Wi-Fi. So I guess 100 down and 100 up. So we got an 8-core Rock chip running at 1.42 gigahertz, just on an e-reader. But what's more important is the thermals, because something that I've noticed on the old tablet was that it actually got warm to the touch when you're running Wi-Fi and doing heavy tasks. With this tablet, it's very unnoticeable. Chrome does work, but I'll probably stay away from it. Then we have Tachiyomi, Kindle, and Moon Reader. These are the top 3 apps that people wanted to see on a tablet like this. So we're going to leave Tachiyomi for last because that's the funnest one. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the Kindle app. Now with this app, things do work. The only problem, of course, is the refresh rate, because the Kindle app is designed for actual tablets that have a full 60 Hz refresh rate, color display, and something that can actually handle this kind of stuff. In our case, we're running at like, 5-10 FPS? I'm not even sure. It's basically a slideshow that's in black and white, and with a possibility of ghosting, but it's not all bad. So we go ahead and select a book and try to scroll through. We can see that it does have some animation, and that drains the battery life. It's not that great, and it sometimes makes you misclick whatever you're clicking. So I'm going to go ahead and select Atomic Habits, and basically, we can see what things look like. The e-reader works, but I'd probably recommend buying your books on your phone, then downloading them through the Wi-Fi, and then turning off Wi-Fi when you want to start reading, because, again, it's going to drain battery. Now, as for the Moon Reader, you can actually have a whole lot of customizability, and you can really tweak it to make it run smoothly on this tablet. In my case, it's a nice reader, but personally, I don't know why I would use it. Maybe you have a big collection of books and you want to transfer your progress. In my case, I really just don't mind using the built-in one. It's nicely optimized, it refreshes much better, and overall, it is designed for the tablet. But Moon Reader, as you can see, does work, and it's not terrible. It is definitely better than the Amazon Kindle. So let's go ahead and try Autodesk Sketch. And as you can see, it does work. It does have sensitivity, and it's not very responsive. This is going to be painful. Alright, that took only 2 minutes. Alright, so that was pretty painful, but finally we get to the moment that we're all been waiting for, and that would be to see what manga would look like on this tablet. But before we do that, and I've done it many times in the video and I'm sorry, but if we go ahead and hold down the actual icon, it will give us a couple options. It will give us top, which will allow you to throw it all the way to the top, but you also have optimization. And that is an important feature that you definitely want to go into, especially if you're reading manga or trying out any other apps that are meant for reading. Because this allows you to customize how your app launches and how it refreshes and what contrast levels you would have on that specific app. And what you see here are the default settings. And while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and give it more of a warmer tone. Then we have the bleaching function, which I believe just inverts the colors from black to white and white to black. If the app doesn't have any options to customize it, if the actual app doesn't have any options like that. Then we have this option right here, which fully refreshes the page every time it wants to animate, which is useful for manga or picture viewing. Again, you can play around and experiment with that. Then we have the animation filtering delay, we have the application refresh rate, the image brightness adjustment by default, as well as the DPI settings, and most importantly, the contrast adjustments, which is currently linked to the built-in system contrast. That's very useful because some apps don't actually show you things very clearly. It may have a gray color on top of a white background, and that isn't very clear, so you can play around with the contrast slider and make things look proper. So, that is pretty much it for the settings, I believe, for the entire tablet. Let's go ahead and, finally turn on Tachiyomi. Here's what it looks like, nice and crisp, pretty sweet if you ask me. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the contrast levels. If I increase it, it will turn darker. If I decrease it, it will turn more light. And you probably want it somewhere in the middle, like so, for a nice, crisp image. So let's go ahead and read some Full Metal Alchemist. And hopefully there's no spoilers here. But essentially, the only settings I've changed on this app is to turn off animation and have the background set to black. So here's what it looks like when you're flipping through pages. It's very clean, very nice, and you can in fact do zoom in, and it does work pretty well. Can't really complain. It's almost like this app was meant for this tablet. And that is all for this video. It may not seem like it, but this tablet has been through a whole lot, hours and hours of recording. This video took a lot to actually make, but hopefully the end result is worth it. I try to go through every single menu, every single option, and basically give you guys a good feel of what this tablet is like. Of course, it finally dawned on me right when I'm doing the conclusion. Thank you all for watching, and thanks to Likebook for sending this out. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, found it helpful. If you did, you know what to do. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.